We're on number 5 of the CPR outline, guys, in your notes. The fifth most important thing that you need to know about church planting is this phrase. Jot it down if you're taking notes, and that is, if you build it, they might not come. that is the blank, might not. In other words, just because you built it doesn't mean it's gonna happen. You have to, if you'll see the little byline there, you have to be intentional about the marketing side of things, the advertising. So just because you decided to show up, and just because you prayed, and just because you have a team, and just because you have money, we're still not finished planting a church. There's still some other things that are really important to do, and that is just letting people know that you're there, and the advertising side of this thing. So in order, I probably think this is the fifth most important thing you would need to know, and that is to develop a marketing strategy that actually works. Now, this is, again, one of those areas that I can't just say this is the way to do it and it works in every market. Only thing I can do is give you marketing principles that you have to contextualize for your environment, okay? And this is a moving target. Marketing is a moving target because times they are a-changing, right? And just things change. And so you need to become a marketing expert for your city. Let me just say that, starting off. You need to become your own marketing expert. You say, Chris, how do I do that? I mean, I would talk to people who are in the advertising agencies. I would talk to people who do it for a living in your area. Pay them if you have to, but talk to people who know how to get results. And I'm talking about measurable results, not just feel-good stuff or stuff that other people have done. And honestly, this is one of the areas that I get a little disappointed in how church planners roll, because they just I think this would be cool. I think if we just had a billboard, that would work. And they'll say whatever, and it might work, but it might not. And that's the point, is that just because you built it, it still might not work. You need to do something that actually has measurable results. So you need to spend some time in your launch year and the time that you're preparing to become an expert at what it takes to pull off marketing and advertising your church to the community, all right? So let me give you a couple things that we would give you just principally speaking, and then again, you have to contextualize it. First one is determine your target audience, And when I say that, I'm not talking about the demographic, I'm talking about the number of people. There are some churches that say, oh yeah, we're going after young people, or we're going after a multicultural, or you know what? I promise you'll take whoever shows up. That's who you're going after. you want somebody who's got breath in their lungs. That's what you want. And so be careful of saying that. Let me just warn you, saying, because it almost excludes other people. So if you're not young, you're not welcome. Don't be careful in saying we're a this kind of church. Look, just be a church, okay? If God sends you people with breath in their lungs, pastor them, okay? Get them saved. All right. So just be careful. Be careful. I'm warning you against that. But I do think you ought to, with regards to marketing, know what you're looking for, what you're going to angle your marketing toward. For instance, the number of people that you're going to try to reach, and then maybe even the type of person. And I wouldn't be like demographic as far as race or age. I'm talking about religious experience. For instance, I was looking for people who had been in church and they loved God but didn't like church. So they considered themselves Christians, but they didn't go to church. They were tired of the institution, but they thought they loved God. So I was going after somebody who I really probably didn't have to convince that there was a God. I was going after people that just were looking for a life-giving church experience. They wish church could actually be fun, and it wasn't. And so that was my target audience. And then I actually had a target number of 400 people. And I'll tell you exactly how I got to that number. The studies that I did 9 years ago said that 90% of church plants failed. So we're getting a little better at it. It's 80% of church plants fail now. But 90% were failing 10 years ago. And the studies were very clear that the ones that failed because the number got below 100 people. They had isolated it down to one issue, and that is there weren't enough people in the church to create critical mass so that the experience itself was vibrant and life-giving, and purely for financial reasons. It's hard to do anything with a smaller number. It's a lot of pressures. You understand that. You understand exactly what I'm talking about. But you got into the 10% success percentile for churches that were over 100. Well, I got a little chicken on it, to be honest with you. I thought, man, I knew half show up after your launch. That means you have to attract 200 to get 100 to be on that number. So I went into our marketing plan doubling those numbers. I thought, well, then give me 400 net 200. And I literally came up with the 400 number as my target goal. Let me tell you why that's important. Because most people market and then just take whatever the results are. And I say start with the end in mind. What kind of results do you want? And now back into what kind of marketing plan would it take to do that? For instance, I'll give you an example of that. If I needed 400 there, I found out that in our geographic region, a direct mail marketing piece was giving you 0.5% return. Okay? So that means in order to get 400 people, I had to do 80,000 pieces. Because if you send 80,000, 0.5% is 400. So that actually became our target number for even our direct mail. And the point I'm trying to show you is that if you have the number first, then you can back the marketing plan in versus saying, well, we can only afford, for 25,000 direct mail pieces, but we're really hoping for 800 people there. Well, it doesn't work that way. You've done it the opposite way. Are y'all tracking with me when I say that? Okay. So start with the result and then back in with, okay, here's how we're going to get that result. And not only with direct mail, but with everything else. All right? So start with the target number, target audience that will give you that critical mass. And a lot of that has to do, by the way, with the venue you're in too. To create that energy so you can have a dynamic, so you can get a momentum wave so that what you do works. That's very, very important. Then, number two, then you create a relevant marketing strategy. You have to create that. You create a relevant marketing strategy. Now, ARC, again, helps church planners do that. And this is difficult because, again, different regions require different things. You will find that, for instance, we're learning that direct mail has a little less impact in a mega city like a Philadelphia or an Atlanta or a Dallas than it would have in maybe a million or less type of a city. So there's a lot of different things we learn based on even the size of the city that you're going to. But you need to create a relevant marketing strategy, and we're happy to help you to do that, which include some of these types of things. Like, here's some of the bullets there. Direct mail. Direct mail still works in a lot of areas. Just sending a marketing piece. Now, let me just say to you something we learned about direct mail, and that is, it's not that just you did direct mail. You can send a direct mail piece that doesn't work. And you could send and then they'll say, well, direct mail doesn't work in our city. Well, no, that piece didn't work. Because what you did was, in fact, I had guys send me their stuff. They said, well, our direct mail just didn't work for me like it worked for you, Pastor Chris. And I said, well, send me what you sent. And then I was like, well, this is why. It's not good. This is not a good piece. And there are things that have to be included and not included in your direct mail piece to actually give you a higher percentage of return. Again, remember, people don't care about you and your church launch. They care about themselves. So you have to put something on that is what's in it for me. And so they don't, you know what I'm saying? So you have to think of those things in mind. That's why a relevant message series is probably one of the best things you can put on your piece, not your picture and the fact that you have a new church. They don't care about a new church. They care about their marriage, their finances. That's what they care about. So I'm giving just a hint of some of those things that can make it great or not so great. And then there's, just in the second blank, just put, other advertising, and which we are not excited about, like things like, we get somewhat excited, but like radio, TV, newspaper, some of the traditional things, those with the digital generation we live in are becoming, in my opinion, less and less effective, but they still have some value in some markets. So just have it on your list to consider. Third one deals with the relevant generation we're in now. That is social media. Social media. And we have one church planter that had almost 700 people in his launch day, and he did nothing but Twitter and Facebook to advertise his church. And there are studies and articles. In fact, lifechurch.tv just came out with a study and an article on how to make Facebook an effective marketing tool for churches. And they give you step-by-step instructions on how to use that medium that people are just using today to advertise your church. I very much believe in it. I Twitter because I enjoy Twitter. I really actually do actually enjoy it. And my tweets are my tweets. You know, some people have Twitter and other people are posting for them. I actually do it myself. I actually enjoy it. But I also do it because it is strategic. I intentionally put messages out there that I was contemplating missions a lot yesterday and just put a little idea out there into the Twitter world for people to consider, you know, just about effective ways to do missions. And it's just, I use it as a way to get things I want to say. My experience, by the way, if you want to use those social medias effectively, they don't want to be just advertised to and have nothing social in it. And I think you're wasting an opportunity if it's only social. Oh, I went to eat out tonight at Chris's Steakhouse. Well, praise God, but, that's good. But don't just, so I mix the social and the strategic with social media, and I think you should do the same. I think people do want to know what I'm doing, but then you use that audience that God's given you to say some important things. But anyway, there are some young people who could really give you a lot of good advice on how to use those two things. And here you ought to write it down somewhere. Listen to the 20-year-olds, okay? Just listen to them. They know what they're talking about. I keep young people around me all the time, and I do what they tell me to do. I really do. I mean, even the way I present messages, even titles, even in stages and lights, and I just listen to them. And I think you probably ought to do the same thing. Another way to advertise is what we just simply call the relational meeting. The relational meeting. Relational meetings. Meaning you just need to create opportunities, whether it's one person or groups of people, to share your vision, your dream. We talked about that earlier when we were talking about building the dream team. But I think you ought to create a host of information meetings, get to know you meetings. And there's some great church planners out there doing it right now in the ARC that are doing just a series of informational, get to know you, share the vision, get to know people meetings, and they're growing their launch teams and their church through that method, and then telling their friends. But you do have to pull off great events, and again, you need to be able to communicate the vision in an effective way that excites and compels people to want to be involved. So the relational meetings are extremely important. My good friend Rick Bazette did most of his launch team building through chocolate chip cookies in his living room, man. His wife cooked a bunch of them, and he just shared his vision and made people feel like $1 million, and he built his team that way. And so when you're marketing your church, you want to think about doing some of those types of, not only one-on-one, but in big groups of relational type meetings. And then pre-launch events and service, just pre-launch events and service, which kind of melds over from the thing I just said. But even pre-launch services, some do that. Now we didn't. We had 2 pre-launch services. They were purely practice services to make sure that we could actually fire the sound system up without feedback and do it on time. And we didn't do it, by the way, the first week. Thank God we practiced. We were terrible at it the first week. And the second week we were a lot better at it. So we practiced church twice with no audience, no one there. We did have one guy, by the way, visit on our practice service. He didn't know. He thought he didn't know. He had gotten the mailer, but he just figured it was this Sunday. He didn't look at the date. And I was freaked out that he was even there, and he loved it. He and his wife joined our church 2 weeks before we even started. So, by the way, he's on my board of trustees now today, that same guy. It's amazing. They've been wonderful friends to Tammy and me. And so, anyway, so pre-launch events and services are huge. That list could be 20 things long. Again, that's one of the things that we want to help you do as an organization. And again, learn from other church planners who do it well. You want to you want a little tip? Also learn from those who didn't do it well. Ask church planters. Now don't be mean. You may not even tell them what you're really doing. But ask guys who spent a lot of money and no one came, hey, what did you do? And then don't do it. So you think I'm kidding. I actually did that myself. And so I learned from guys who failed as much as I learned from those who succeeded. I actually interviewed guys who failed. I didn't tell them I was interviewing them because they failed, but I was learning. I thought, well, I'll never do that. I'll never do that. And I learned some things from the guys who it didn't work from and try to study it. Bottom line, it's where I began with this topic, be an expert. Be the expert. You need to take responsibility for your marketing strategy. and be very intentional about it. Y'all receive that, everybody? You got it? Okay, the third point there is after the launch, you want to maintain a continual presence in that community. My good friend Dino Rizzo is responsible for our critical question today. This is what Dino told me. We were in our church. We were on a month old, and Dino called me. He was just encouraging me, and one day Dino said, "Chris, what did you do today to let people know you were there? What did you do today?" And honestly, and that day he called me, I hadn't done anything. And he gave me a nugget that I've never forgotten, and that he said, every day, you got to figure out ways to let people know you're there. And I'm going to tell you, you know what? I said, Dina, I don't even know how to do that. You have to train me. I said, like what? And he talked about community service things, being involved in different clubs in the city. He said, call the religion editor of your newspaper and tell him anytime you need a comment from somebody about any topic, call you as an expert. And he will, and I do, and they do. I got a call from our religion editor yesterday. He's doing an article, just wanted to know my opinion. Had nothing to do with our church. He wanted to quote me as someone who knew stuff. And it just lets people know, here we are, here we are, here we are, here we are, we're here. And you just never stop thinking through the marketing side of your church. Again, please hear this. Church planting is not an event, it's a process. And it's something that has to be done every day. Building a team is not an event, it's a process. It has to be done every day. Every one of these things, raising money is not an event, it's a process. You need to do something every day. And if you don't hear anything else, don't think about just the big letter I sent out or we did a mailer. No, what did you do today? I love the critical question. What will I do today to let people know that we are planting a church? You got it? All right. Billy, you want anything you want to add to that? And then let's do a little Q&A.
Yes, I do. We've had some experiences where church planter got out there and had a better idea, and they were going to do a bunch of little quirky things that they thought would get a lot of attention, and it didn't work. It just flopped, and so they're stuck with 40, 50 people after their first month, and they're playing catch up the rest of their church life, unless they can raise more money and relaunch it and do it right. A lot of people say, well, I just didn't have enough money to do a mail out. That's no such thing as that. You may not think mail outs work, but let me tell you something. If you mail out to 100,000 people, even if you don't get the same results that Church of the Highlands got, you'll get enough results that there might be 5 families, 10 families that'll come and stay that will pay for that mail out every 6 months that they're there. You cannot afford not to do a huge mailer. Now, when you do it, what's on it, all that's very important. We'll help coach you. So one of the things we've learned to do is to coach you couple of months out, find out what your marketing plan looks like, and we will give you advice on it. But you have to do all these different things in order to have a successful launch. If they don't know you're there, they're not coming. Bottom line, you do everything that you can. Now, after you're up and running, you can do all kind of stuff. You can do these little community newspapers are nice. People read that kind of stuff. But to get started, you got to do it as big as you can. Make sure, and Pastor Chris will tell you, he spent $75,000 on the first day, for the first day to launch the church. Don't skimp.
That was 10 years ago.
That was 10 years ago. So it probably takes 100 to 150,000, depends on the city you're in. But do not skimp on marketing. You can have the greatest idea, the most perfect church service, but if nobody knows you're there, it's not going to do a bit of good. Okay, so should you still do mail outs? Absolutely.
Yeah, I coach once a month, our church planners. I do a monthly conference call of the first 15 that sign up every month. And one of the guys that got on, his church is 2 months old. He said, Pastor, I'm a little discouraged. He said, we had 70 people. We had 70 people at our launch, and we're down to 50 people. I said, what happened? I said, did you send the mail? You know, I started asking about his marketing. Oh, no, we decided not to do this. We decided not to do that. And I said, well, that's why. It's not that what you're doing is necessarily wrong, it's that no one knows about it, and you didn't follow the plan. And again, please hear that the ARC marketing strategy is the Big Bang Theory. It's the let's put the money. We are willing to invest big money in you because we know if we can make the first day a big day, just even the attrition of that is enough to create momentum and critical mass to keep that thing going, and it pays for itself actually very quickly if you do it that way. So let's just do it right the first time. And if that means waiting a year to raise another $100,000, wait a year. If it means waiting a year to get another 40 people on your launch team, wait a year. Let's don't get in a hurry. Let's do it right the first time. You'll be glad that you did.
Launching large solves 90% of your problems, solves the critical mass problem, solves the financial problem. It helps you become a force and a power immediately. And for every person that you get to come from that mail out, they have a circle of influence of 10 people or more. Don't skimp on that kind of stuff. But we'll be glad to help you figure all that out.